What's up, everybody? Welcome into the podcast. I'm getting started. It's the 4th of August. I don't really have a topic today. What else is new, I guess. I just wanted to just go off a little bit about things. Just things that I have found out this week and kind of am interested in and come across. And so anyway, last week I was talking about the fact that I have these people, and it's like I have such a short fuse with stupidity, which is ignorant folks, that I just cut people off so fast. And this week I did it again. I mean, it's becoming a weekly thing, and part of me is like, man, chill, okay? It's not that serious. A lot of the time, I guess. You just need to chill out. And I thought about this, and I was like, no, it is that serious. I'm at this point in my life where the things around me, that helps me out. Helps me feel better, helps me be a better person, all sorts of things. And so, to have this kind of negativity and this, just drama and shit around me is just awful, and I'm tired of it. And so there's this idea that doing drugs is really cool. It's the hip thing to do, and I don't have a problem with drugs. Okay, obviously I don't have a problem with drugs, but it's frustrating to me when people are going to post that in a public spot. Look how cool I am with what I am doing, because then why are you doing it? Are you doing drugs to show off, or what's the deal? Who really cares what you're doing with your time? If you want to, snort coke, whatever. If you want to smoke weed, whatever. But it's can't you just do it on your own? You don't have to post on Snapchat. Your Snapchat story doesn't have to be you toking up every single morning oh, wake and bake. Yeah, we get it, okay? There's plenty of people who wake and bake, and they don't tell anyone about it, and life goes on. It's fantastic. And so the thing that pissed me off, okay, I have this weird relationship with this girl. I've known her for forever. Okay, probably 6 years. 5 or 6 years. And there's just been a lot of things about her that bother the hell out of me, and I'm not afraid to tell her that. And same thing with her. She's very honest with me, and so sometimes we butt heads quite a bit. And recently it's been a lot because she just is doing things that drive me nuts. And I'm like, look, be better, okay? Be better, because you can be. And so 95% of the time that I would get Snapchat, messages from her, I didn't respond because I didn't know what to say. She'd post her story or whatever, or send me these snaps, and I'm like, cool. What am I supposed to do with that? Oh, you look like you're having such a good time getting blackout drunk. Looks like you're having the greatest time, and it's you're not accepting what's coming after that. Then the next morning I always get these complaining snaps about how hungover she was, or oh, I made bad decisions, whatever. And I'm like, stop. I'm tired of it. I'm done with this. And the one that, okay, I'm getting to the point. She sent me a snap, and it just bothered me so much because, okay, so the snap itself didn't bother me. It was her reaction to what I said. And I probably could have just been cool. But I didn't, okay? I was in a mood, I guess. And so I decided to just kind of put my 2 cents in. So what I got was a snap of her table, I guess. And she had a bottle of promethazine, codeine, whatever you want to call it. She had a bag of Jolly Ranchers and a bottle of Sprite. And she's like, tonight's gonna be, turn or something. Something stupid. And I was like, okay. And I wrote back, I'm like, it's funny because you talked about trying to be clean and sober, and then something small happens in your life and you just go completely off the rails. I'm like, this isn't weed. You're not smoking weed right now. This is lean, okay? And so, for those people who listen to my podcast, which aren't many, but there's a couple of you that probably don't know what lean is. It's like a drink, People drink this, okay? I think it originated in Texas, like Houston area, and you mix like essentially a benzodiazepine into a beverage and you drink it. And people like to chill out on it. And it's like, wait a second, why would you do that? You're drinking cough syrup, man. Like, gross. And, I'm not just saying this because I don't agree with it. It's like, I've tried it before, okay? I used to do it every now and again. And I know, like, that it's the draw to it. But at the same time, this kills people. You understand? Like, who's that guy recently? ASAP Yams. He OD'd on it. And Pimp C. Rest in peace, Pimp C. He died on it. And you gotta just, like, think about that for a second. It's not... You don't really know the dosage. If you were to get codeine from your doctor, you would follow the prescription, right? But these people are dumping it into a drink and chugging the whole thing. This is a problem to me because there's so many people that do it. And it's like, that's not just stuffy people who are saying this. Like, part of hip-hop culture kind of was founded with this. There's so many people like Lil Wayne used to be all about it. Boosie, all about it. And you gotta think for a second, like, there's a reason that these guys stopped it. And it's like, it's dangerous. And you might say, like, oh, it's no less dangerous than cocaine or, any of these other things that people decide to do. But it's like, Lil Wayne used to have seizures and he quit. Like, that's a good reason to quit. And so I was just like, it's highly addictive and you can die. And if you don't know your limits and you're just messing around with it, that can be really bad. And I know, and it's like, I'm taking what I'm saying based on years of knowing this person and knowing that they do not listen to their body's limits and they push limits. It happened with alcohol. I spent time, like, with this chick just completely blackout gone because she didn't listen to her limits. I'm like, you're not the type of person who's going to take on the low side of things. You're always going to push the high side. And she came back at me with all of this, like, okay, grandpa, all this. And I'm like, first off, who do you think you're talking to? I'm not like this stuffy religious guy who wears button-up shirt and a tie and is trying to proselytize to you about, being a good person, okay? I've known people that have ended up in the hospital because of drugs. I know people who died because of drugs. So why would I want anyone to be going crazy with stuff? It's like, I understand that there's something that happens in your life and you don't really know how to cope with it. And so you go completely, like, just whacked out. And I can say that because I did that, okay? I had such a small life issue, a breakup, okay? Nobody died. I didn't have any of my stuff burned. I didn't, this is not a big deal. It was a big deal, but, like, not life-changing. And I went off the rails. Like, I took it so hard. And, paychecks paychecks earlier this year went right into my system, my lungs, my nose, whatever you want to figure out. And it's like, look, don't do it. Why would you do this to yourself? And so I was coming at it from a place of concern. You know, I don't want bad things to happen to people that I care about because I'm not an insane person. Like, how hard is it? And granted, I could, after she did that, I could have been like, look, I'm looking out for you the best I can. I'm not trying to be pushy, but this is just how it is. But such the negative response that she gave me, and like, I just realized, how could you even come at someone like that who's just trying to, be a little bit, conscious of you and care about what you're doing? You can't really care about somebody if you're gonna do that. And to not like apologize or anything, and I was like, all right, whatever, cut off. That's it. That's the end. And it's weird because like sometimes when you cut somebody out of your life or you have something that happens and you don't talk to someone, you gotta get this hole in your whole soul, your body. Just you start thinking about them. You're like, I wonder what they're doing. I wonder how they are. And granted, it's only been like a week. I haven't even thought about it. Like, people are like, oh, how would you sleep? How do you sleep at night? Like a baby. Like, boom. I don't really sleep like a baby because I don't sleep hardly ever. But it's crazy to me. And it's like, that's a true measure of if someone's really important to you. Or someone is really making a big impact in your life. If they're not actually in there for a couple days, you start to go a little bit crazy. And you're like, I got to talk to them. I got to see what's up. See how they're doing. And so, I kind of said that earlier. It's like, it's not about how you always talk to somebody every day or things like that. But like, honestly, if you can go for a long time and not think about them, not talk to them, they really didn't have a serious spot in your life. I think that's kind of sad at times, but you kind of just roll with the punches. Person number two. I've known her for a little while. And again, a couple years, 4 years or so. Know some serious details about each other. And she I don't know, bad mood. Maybe her boyfriend's not being nice, whatever. Not really any of my concern. But then she starts to come at me with a lot of negative. And I get a message, and it's like, you keep messing with hoes and pushing people away who care, you're going to end up bitter and alone. And I was like, oh really? Okay. First off, I've been trying really hard in my own life to like not go down the path that I have previously. That means not messing with crazy girls. That means trying my best to like make meaningful relationships and not just look for physical gratification in the moment. Okay? And first off, what bugs me is the fact that she just assumes that everybody that I mess with are a bunch of hoes. Which, maybe in the past, I could see that. But now, I'm like, I'm friends with a lot of good girls, good people, who I'm trying to enrich my life with them, make things better. Secondly, I understand that you might feel like I push people away that care about me, but honestly, it's really not. It's not about that. I've often thought like I might push people away, but really the fact of the matter is I just shut the door. I'm not chasing anybody away. I just, If you want in, you gotta work a little bit. That's not a problem. Some people have a problem with that. I think a lot of people have a problem with that. They see that as being selfish. They're like, you only care about you. You don't care about anybody but you. You're pushing me away. Let me know when you're going to quit doing that. I want to be your friend, but I'm not going to be your friend if you're going to do that. And it's like, friends don't care. They open the door. Friends have a key to your place, and they just open the door. It's not like wait for them to invite them in. So for me, it's like, if you're not willing to just open the door, what place do you have in my life? Like, do you really matter that much? No, sure don't. And so for me, I'm just confused by it. It's like, are you kidding me? How are you going to come at me with all of this stuff about how I only mess with hoes, how I only do this, how I only do that, how I always push you away? It's like, I've been there through a lot of stuff for a lot of people. And at times I've been really selfish, honestly. I can admit that, because I've worked really hard at being more self-aware. It's a little bit... Honestly, couldn't tell you why people are the way that they are, or why they do, why they feel the need to talk like that. But all I can do is move forward with it, But I don't know, enough of that. I wanted to just get into some more interesting things that I came across this week. So I despise the idea of cultural appropriation. Okay? I think it's dumb that people think that that's a problem. And you know what's funny is it's only a problem when it concerns brown or black people. When you're trying to culturally appropriate something from a brown or black person, it's a problem. Okay? Which is funny to me because I'm not Caucasian. I'm Asian. Nobody bats an eye when all of these white people, black people, Hispanic people, whatever, dress up for Comic-Con as their, or Anime Con or Twitch Con, whatever con is in there. When they dress up, okay, no one cares. No one's like, cultural appropriation. No one cares about it. And I'm like, that's because people just don't care about Asians in general. We just are just globbed into white people essentially. And which isn't true. We're still a minority in the country, but that's a whole different issue. And so I saw this story about cultural theft. Critics in Portland. Okay, first off, here's the problem with this story. It's Portland. This is one reason that I would never want to move there. Okay, because just the amount of hipster is overwhelming. So critics close white women's Portland burrito stand for cultural theft. So you got two white girls, literally Callie and Liz, okay, that are making burritos in a burrito stand, and people lose it. Critics lose it, and they're like, these women stole burrito making techniques from Mexicans, and that is so awful. And I'm just like, hold on a second. Are you telling me that you can't make another culture's food if you're not that culture because that's theirs? It's strictly theirs? Have you lost your mind? Has America lost its mind? Portland certainly has. Keep Portland weird? No thanks. I'd rather have decent, normal people. It's crazy to me to think that, one culture owns something. I understand that. But to have exclusive rights, it's like, how many Asian places in areas where there aren't very many Asians are run by other people, other races? How many places are Mexican? So is Taco Bell cultural theft? No, because it's assumed that the food is just trash American Mexican food. So it's like, where do you draw the line? Because there's a lot of restaurants. Is it a Brazilian guy that runs Brazilian restaurants like Rodizio? I guess, it's not, I don't know what they would call it. It's like it's in the style of. And I guess that would be where you would have to draw that line, is to say that this burrito is in the style of X. The burrito that we had in Mexico that was amazing, and now we came back, we learned how to make it, and that was the biggest thing. They're like, oh, they stole it from the people down there, the way to make it. It's like, how do you make a burrito? Man, I've been making burritos for years. I'm not stealing anything. It's like, what about the people who came up with sushi burrito? I bet it wasn't an Asian or a Mexican. It's like, you're stealing from two cultures there. Who cares? Who cares about cultural appropriation? Only two groups seem to. And two groups being the group that it's being appropriated from, and then white apologists because they feel socially, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. They feel like socially responsible for defending everybody at this point. And it's like, look, until the internet was big, until all these things were shared, no one cared. Or if they did, they didn't do anything about it because that was too much work. But to attack someone on Facebook is just a click away. I thought that was ridiculous. Kind of funny, but kind of ridiculous at the same time. That's one reason I don't think I would ever want to live in Portland. Is because, there's just this drive of, this is socially right, this is politically correct, and it's like, stop. Just stop. You're taking it way past the extreme. Going along with the drugs kind of thing, I thought it was really interesting that the reason that pot isn't legal in every state, it's not a national legality, it's blocked by many groups. And here in Utah, boy, I get tired of non-religious folks in Utah blaming everything on the Mormon Church. Granted, that is a serious problem, or a stumbling block, roadblock, whatever you want to call it here in Utah. But the fact of the matter is, Salt Lake City proper is less than 50% LDS. So what's the deal with, Salt Lake City has a gay mayor. They elected a gay mayor. So let's not blame everything, on church issues. And the biggest thing is, people hear these pothead kids that don't actually research and don't, do any of their own thinking. They listen to their friends, or they just assume. They don't really look at the other side. Pot's legal, what happens? That means that a whole host of pharmaceuticals goes away. The need for them. You know who that makes mad? I don't know, just the most powerful group in America, the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry has like a serious vested interest in not allowing pot to become legal. And so they dump who knows how much money into lobbying against it. I think that there's different narcotics and stuff, different pain meds that are dangerous. And if you could avoid taking them because you can spark up a joint, that would be the choice. And I think that the pharmaceutical industry knows this, and they're willing to step back a little bit on that. And they want what they want. I think there's another group, Prison Guard Union. they lobby against it. Police unions, they lobby against it. It's like, if something's legal, you lose some jobs because not as many people get in trouble for it. It makes sense. Something that people don't think about. There was this thing called the Psychedelic Act of 1970. And it put a ban on like different psychedelic drugs. And it didn't... What was crazy was it didn't actually get all psychedelics. There were some things that kind of slipped through the cracks and they didn't ban. And then there were some things that they banned that aren't even psychedelic. And so why did they do that in 1970? It wasn't because they had this thing against drugs. It's because they were trying to cripple two movements, civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, Vietnam. And so if they could go after people that were part of those movements and grab them on drug charges, it seemed like a good idea. So that's why they ended up passing this. There's always some other reason why things happen. There's a second reason that's a little less obvious that you still have to look up to. And, like I was saying, like, pharmaceuticals is a massive business. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it's crazy to me that you have things like antidepressants and stuff like that, and you start taking it, and then you feel sluggish, so then they prescribe you an upper, and then, it's a little bit too crazy, so they do something else, and it's like they just overprescribe. And it's kind of scary because we don't fully understand the causes and effect situation with pharmaceutical antidepressants. I was hearing this thing about how some like antipsychotic drugs, people who have like a psychotic episode, sometimes if it comes out of the blue, I guess there's studies that show that it will go away. It's not like, oh, permanent craziness, you're permanently psychotic. But then there's this kind of evidence that points that when they get on the antipsychotic, that keeps it around, or it influences it. If you look at all the like shootings that happen, these school shootings and stuff, it's like either the kid just got put on a new med, or the kid just came off of a med, or he hadn't been taking his meds. There's some real evidence that points that these might actually cause you to be psychotic, which is weird, right? Because it's an antipsychotic. But the way it changes your brain chemistry and everything like that, it's weird, It's kind of weird. And so there's a study. This guy was trying to show that drugs aren't addictive. It's your environment that makes you do drugs. It was like a rat park study, rat heaven, and so they had like, I'm summarizing, this is a brief summary, you can read more about it, but they had like a rat in a cage, an isolated cage, and given water and a solution that had drugs in it. And they noticed when the rat was all alone, they would go to the drug one and just do it until they died. It was over. And so then they would put the rats in like rat heaven, a rat park, I guess. And so there would be more rats around, there would be exercise, there would be different food, different other things. And the rats would like quit doing drugs. They would quit going towards the little drug bowl, I guess, the drug solution that they were given. And so it was like, well, environment has a big part of addiction. It's not everything. I think there's still a chemical like a chemical aspect of addiction, there definitely is. Like, they've shown that like your brain changes when you do drugs, and it bothers me when people say they're not addicted to like pot. It's like, you might be. I think it's entirely possible that you're addicted to pot. I guess it comes with a negative connotation, addiction, and so people don't want the label associated with it, but like, you can be addicted to working out, you know? And it all depends on your mindset, if it's healthy or not, because it can be incredibly unhealthy. Any addiction can be, I think, managed, but generally they don't. They spiral out of control a little bit. And so I was thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of like the rat in the cage by itself. I think the biggest times of addiction that I faced, it was just because I was lonely and alone, and I had nothing else to do, and I got started on something, and I just ran with it. And there's triggers that cause you to jump back into it, but the biggest thing was like, well, if you fill your life with other things, you don't necessarily need that. And I can attest to that as well, because once I started doing other things, then there's a couple addictions that just dropped off and weren't an issue for me. And the biggest thing about it is it's hard work. It's really tough, and a lot of people don't have the fortitude to decide that they want to quit something, so they don't, and they're like, oh, it's hard, I can't, I'm addicted. And addiction it's possible to beat it, and some people really do need a treatment. They do need to go into a treatment facility and just detox, and they need to just back off a little bit, and they need to address every aspect of their life, because there's usually something else that causes addiction. It's not because you like to drink alcohol, okay? It's not because you like to smoke pot. That's not what gets you addicted all the time. There's definitely underlying causes. Let's see. What else did I... So, I thought this was interesting too. So you hear about the placebo effect? About how, like, people will be given some, like, sugar pill and suddenly it starts to work. So I didn't know that there was this thing called the nocebo effect. And people, like, in a study, they might actually have the negative symptoms that are associated with, the pharmaceutical or whatever, simply because they're worried, and they get they have a fear that they're going to get the placebo. And so even if it did work, it no longer works because of their thinking. And that's when I realized, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, the brain is a powerful thing. And I don't think we fully understand what the brain does completely to our bodies. The idea that you can make yourself physically ill by thinking about it, that's a little bit worrisome. The idea that they've done tests where they've visualized. Visualization to me, I always thought was just bogus. I'm like, I don't care about that. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Because a lot of people take that and they waste their time doing it. They visualize their $1 million. They visualize their Ferrari. And you're like, come on now. A big part of this is the work that you put in. If you want to be a millionaire, by all means, you can probably do it. But there's an insane amount of work ethic that needs to be had. And if you don't have that, that's not the type of person you are. Visualizing something is not going to make it appear magically. This isn't a magic trick. However, visualization is really interesting because they did this experiment where prior to going into surgery, they had people visualize that they weren't losing blood. And when they actually did the surgery, the blood loss in the people that had visualized, like their veins closing up a little bit and things like that, they actually had less blood loss than the people who just went into surgery normally. And it's like, that's creepy to me. That's a little bit creepy, and that's a little bit crazy and kind of cool. That visualizing things can actually work. I don't know. When I implemented meditation into my routine, I was like, this is so corny, man. Like, I'm gonna sit here quietly and make om sounds, and you listen to those things on YouTube and stuff. It's like you visualize yourself. It's this really calm voice, and they're like, visualize that you are in a pool of water and you're weightless. And I was like, come on, man. I don't want to sit here and listen to that. All that's going to happen is I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to fall asleep. But then I actually started the meditation and just taking a minute and reflecting. And it really made a difference in how I would feel about my day. I could wake up and do that, and my day would automatically start a little bit better. And I don't think I would have ever... It's not a self-fulfilling prophecy for me. It isn't that I think it's going to work, so it works, because I was extremely skeptical that it would work. And yet it works. So it's weird that the brain almost needs it. It almost needs to be reset a little bit before it can help you with whatever you're doing. Powerful stuff. I think I'm going to wrap it up. It's a little bit shorter of a podcast. I wanted to do an hour tonight, but I honestly don't have a lot to talk about. Some of those things were really interesting. Some just outrageous. And that's the great thing, is the more you learn, the more you can just talk about things with other people. Like, I called my parents the other day and I was like, hey, did you know that there's people that believe in this? And it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And the guy I think that founded Scientology, I think is L. Ron Hubbard or something. He had a quote about, if you want to make money, start a religion. And then what happened? He started Scientology. When he started Scientology, that quote was scrubbed from the internet, scrubbed from everything. But there were still people who knew the quote, and that were like, hold on. So if you want to make money, start a religion. And then this guy goes and starts a religion and asks for his people to donate 10% of their wealth, 10% of their income to him. It's kind of interesting, And I talk to people about it, and they're like, oh, that's cool. And it sparks a conversation. Another one, I called my parents, and I was like, hey, so Donald Rumsfeld, back in 2001, he had a speech or something on September 10th, 2001. Okay? The day before September 11th. And in that speech, he was like, there's currently $3.3 trillion that's unaccounted for. We have no idea where it is in the defense fund. And so this isn't like secret mission money. Okay? This isn't highly classified experiments in the Nevada desert money, because those have a line item in defense that are covered already. And what's interesting is then September 11th happened, and a plane hit the Pentagon. And the plane hit the Pentagon and destroyed one section. And that section was the accounting department. Interesting, huh? And then after that, nobody ever talked about the missing $3 trillion. Okay, that's a T with a T. $3,000 billion of missing defense money. Like, where did it go? Who did we give it to? What are we spending it on? Interesting stuff. Like I said in an earlier podcast, I love to learn and I love to just know things. I'm the type of person who will go through like a Trivial Pursuit game and just read the cards. And then I just know all these random things and I end up like just, I don't know, it's crammed into my brain. And so it's frustrating because then I can't remember some of the things I really want to remember, but then I'm like, hey, I know this random fact from, Trivial Pursuit, this Harry Potter Trivial Pursuit, which, by the way, is incredibly difficult, and I like Harry Potter. But that Trivial Pursuit game is tough. You gotta be a whole another level of Harry Potter nerd to be into that, because I was like, wow, I can't even answer the like bottom level question. I mean, some of them are obvious, but then others are tough. But I listen to podcasts and I think it's really interesting what people have to say. That's why I like sports podcasts, because they provide a take on something that is news. I got kind of tired of watching SportsCenter. It was the same thing all day long. And they just report the news. And that's fine, but I always like opinion shows. On ESPN, like First Take. I'd watch all of them. First Take, Highly Questionable, all of those. PTI. Because everybody had like a different spin on it. Now I don't listen to as much sports commentary. Can't wait though for the upcoming college football season. The NFL is whatever to me, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think there's a lot of interesting dialogue happening in the NFL right now. College football, I think, will be really interesting because this year it seems like everybody who's supposed to be good is going to be pretty good. I'm excited to see USC. I wouldn't say I'm a USC fan. I'm excited because they play the Utes, and anybody who plays the Utes is great in my book, I'm hoping for good things from Oregon, because last year it was tough to watch. I think they went 3-9 last year, and I watched parts of 12 games and wasn't able to really finish any of them. Once again, teams that play Utah and beat Utah are great in my book. And I'll always love BYU football, BYU basketball. So I'm excited for college sports. I'm excited. What I really need to do is get a job though that I work in the evening, or not in the evening, because I miss so much when it comes to sports. Working this job that I work from 3 to midnight, I miss like all the contests except for like Saturday and Sunday. I just post up and I just eat it up. I love it. I'll watch the most random games. Like I remember in college, I just loved college football, and I'd watch games. And they're like, "Who's playing?" And I'm like, "Bowling Green." I don't know. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'd watch CBS, watch the SEC. I love SEC football. I'm really disappointed that when I was in South Carolina, I drove past the Gamecock Stadium. It's absolutely massive. Seats like 90,000 people. I never went to a game, and it's one of those things that makes me really sad. But I will go to an SEC football game eventually. Most likely, I think in 2019, BYU plays Tennessee at Neyland, and my sister lives in Knoxville, right? And her husband's a big BYU fan. My nephew's like going to the games, I guess, or like football. All their neighbors are diehard Tennessee Volunteer fans. I mean, it's crazy. Those fans are crazy, and I'm excited because I told them, I'm like, 2019, I'm gonna be in Knoxville, and we're gonna go to the game. And rep that BYU blue. And it's going to be terrifying, but I'm excited. It'll be an SEC stadium, and hopefully BYU's decent in 2019 and we don't get smoked. But, yeah, I need a job where I can enjoy my sports because I love them. NBA regular season, it killed me because I'm like, oh, I actually have like NBA League Pass, but I can't watch any games because I'm actually at work. You know, and so I'm really hoping. I actually today started putting out feelers and putting out interest in different teaching jobs. So this weekend I think I'm going to really buckle down. I got the letter back from Challenger, the Challenger School, about the application process, and I actually have to do homework. In order to apply for to be a teacher at Challenger, I have to write an essay on my opinion of America, which that'll be interesting. But I think I can put a really good spin on it. I tend to like to play the race card a little bit just because it provides a different perspective than what the cultural norm is here in Utah, and so people love that, you know? They like seeing a different side of things, but not in your face. Like, I'm not like, I hate white people my people were put in internment camps and we're owed something, you know? It's nothing like that, okay? But I think it'll be interesting, and I'm looking forward. I'm gonna sit down and actually write it out, and we'll see how it goes. But everybody, hopefully you have a good, solid weekend. And thank you for listening.